In Tanya, in chapter 37, top is 94, bottom 172. We're going to start 6 lines from the end of the page, at the end of the line. Okay, last week we discussed at great length the difference what positive mitzvahs accomplish and what negative mitzvahs accomplish. And the Alter Rebbe is explaining that the coming of Mashiach, Dira B'Tachtenim, the ultimate Dira B'Tachtenim, is dependent on doing mitzvahs. And he explained why. Because when a person does a mitzvah, they elevate the physical world. Even if it's not a physical mitzvah, it's verbal mitzvah, that's also action. You elevate your mouth. You elevate the food that you ate. You elevate the blood. So you have the positive mitzvahs, which are called limbs, because they're the vessels for that particular power of the soul, or in this case, the revelation of Hashem in doing the mitzvah. The 365 negative commandments correspond with the 365 veins. And Alter Rebbe was explaining what is the purpose of a vein. The purpose of a vein is to bring the blood to the proper place, that it shouldn't go where it shouldn't go. When a person, and this is where we left off last week, when a person transgresses a negative commandment, what they're doing is feeding a very powerful force to evil. When a Jew doesn't do evil, evil is not fed, it weakens. If it's weakened, it's easier then to do more good mitzvahs, because then there's less of a blockage from the evil forces. But when a person transgresses a negative commandment, then they're actually feeding evil, and therefore evil becomes very powerful. Okay, that's what we're up to now. He says at the end, it's 6 lines in there, 5 lines in the end. Therefore, when a person does a lot of practical mitzvahs, when he does mitzvahs, the nefesh, the animal soul, the soul that gives life, in the entire Jewish nation, becomes the chariot, meaning the horse which is completely subservient to the rider, meaning the Jew is completely bottled to Hashem. Then, the general life of this world, which is klipas noiga achshav, which now is sustaining itself from the natural level of evil, but still evil. I'll explain in a second. Teitzi ozma tumasa will go out of its impurity, the chalasa and its filth, vitala lekadusha, and will be elevated to kedusha, lias merkava Hashem, that it should be the subservient chariot to Hashem. This galus kvoidei, when God's glory will be revealed, the roh of all flesh will see. Meaning, what Alter Rebbe is saying like this: right now, this world is not holy. It's sustaining itself from neutral level of evil, klipas noiga, because there's a lot of permissible things in the world. So therefore, the world is existing from klipas noiga. Now, if a Jew takes this klipas noiga, all these kosher objects, and does mitzvahs with them, even like Dr. Rabbi said, you eat food, the food is not a mitzvah. But now you ate that food, and with the power of the food you ate, you're learning and davening and doing mitzvahs. So obviously what's happening is that food became elevated to Kedusha. So now when all Jews do mitzvahs, the more mitzvahs they do, when they do mitzvahs, what happens is they actually elevate the Kedusha that's in klipas noiga. They remove the spark that's in this evil force of the world, but it's permissible. So the spark of Kedusha is not bound to the evil, it's loose. We can elevate it. And then what happens? The world at large is living from holiness instead of from klipa. Then God's glory will be revealed. V'ro chabasa yachtav, all flesh will see that the mouth of God is what's speaking. V'yefi alehem, and Hashem will reveal himself ba'adar ga'enuze, with the glory of his might and power. V'yimolech chved Hashem es kol ha'aretz, and then the glory of God will permeate the earth, meaning everything will feel kedusha. The Yisrael Yiru, and the Jews will see ayin ba'ayin, eye to eye. They're going to see God eye to eye, like they did by Matan Torah. What happened by Matan Torah? When Torah was given, the Jews saw God. They saw the essence of Hashem. When a Jew does a mitzvah, that's what's happening. We are seeing godliness. Godliness is permeating the world. The world is not living anymore through evil. Granted, it's klipas noiga, the neutral level of evil, but it's still, the world is now living from kedusha, not from anything of evil. And therefore, like the pasuk says, "Ata haresa ladas," until you it was shown, ki Hashem hu Elokim, that God is God, ein od mulvade, there's nothing else but Hashem. So what happens when Jews do mitzvahs? Again, the Alter Rebbe in Lampert, this chapter is explaining why mitzvahs are going to bring Mashiach. The dira b'tachtenim, which will happen when Mashiach comes, is totally b'ma'aseinu v'avedaseinu meshech zman hagolus, is dependent on what we do during Golus. In other words, there's a concept, I don't want to elaborate on it now. There was a concept since Marisha. At the beginning of creation, we learned it in different places. At the beginning of creation, the Eitz Chaim writes that the glory of God permeated, the infinite glory of God permeated the world. And there was no place to allow a limited being because all that was revealed was infinite. So what did Hashem do? So it says, Hashem removed himself. Not God forbid he left, but he removed himself. And now a finite light was revealed. It's called Ak, Adam Kadmon. It was the first level after the Tzimtzum, and then world was able to be created. When Mashiach comes, we're going back to that revelation of Lifnei HaTzimtzum. We're going back to that same revelation that was there before the world was created. So the question is, then the world couldn't handle it. How could the world handle it now? When Mashiach comes, the world's going to handle that essential revelation of the essence of Hashem. 5,784 years ago, the world couldn't handle it. The answer is, that's what Alter Rebbe is explaining, because now we're elevating the world. We're making the world, by doing Torah mitzvahs and elevating the physical world, to be a vessel for godliness. Therefore, what we're doing, the more mitzvahs we do, the more the world is going to be a receptacle and a vessel to be able to handle this revelation of godliness. And then he says, through this, Yizbalu, all the three klipas will become, Yizbalu will be absorbed, getting rid of. The Yizbatu Lagami called the Sholosh klipas atmeis. And then evil won't exist. Total evil won't exist anymore. Why? We're not dealing with total evil. He says like this. Everything has to live from God. Everything exists from Hashem. Evil exists from Hashem. So how does evil exist? If God is holy and evil isn't, evil denies the existence of Hashem. How could evil live? So it says through the intermediary of klipas noiga. In other words, it's not a direct giving. When a person does mitzvahs, it's face-to-face relationship. When you love somebody, you have an internal connection, an internal bond. You look face-to-face. If you have to give something to somebody you hate, you have to sustain them, though. what do you do? It's an expression in English, you throw it over your shoulder. What do you mean you throw it over the shoulder? I'm sustaining you, but I don't want to look at you. I'm giving to like externally. I have no choice. So how does evil exist from Kedusha? Evil exists through the neutral level. The total evil exists through the neutral level of evil. But if the neutral level of evil is elevated to Kedusha through our Torah mitzvahs, then total evil automatically becomes dismantled. It becomes finished. That's what he says. Because this, that evil lives in Kedusha now, that's Aide Klippas Neiga, okay, through this neutral level of evil, which is the intermediary between holiness and evil. So it comes out from all this. The ultimate purpose of Mashiach's coming. The Tchias HaMesim and the resurrection of the dead, which is, as the Rebbe said before, the ultimate essential revelation of God, which is the ultimate revelation of Hashem, and to remove evil from the world. Like it says, the pasuk says about Mashiach's era, I'm going to remove the evil spirit. Evil won't exist anymore. What is that dependent on? Because if you get rid of the neutral level that sustains evil as an intermediary between holiness and evil, total evil, and now you elevate Klippas Noga, which is the intermediary, but now you make it all holy, so evil has no source of sustenance. So what happens? Ruach HaTumah, Hashem will totally, that's dependent on Shechose Elokuse, and us bringing down godliness. The Erein Baruch Hu, and the revelation of God, Lenefesh HaChiyunis, to the animal soul, of Chol Yisrael, of all Jews, B'chol Remachi Barel, in all 248 limbs of the animal soul, which is Klippas Neiga, by doing all the 248 positive mitzvahs. And to remove the Ruach HaTumah Mimenu, to remove the evil from the world by keeping all the 365 negative mitzvahs. There's a very important point which the Rebbe is teaching us over here, which is another thing. Many people think that I don't need Torah mitzvahs. I could do it my way. I have my own relationship with God. I feel God in my heart. It's called a cardiac Jew. I can have God in my mind. Could be called neurological Jew. That's all can't be. A Jew wants to serve Hashem. It has to be on Hashem's terms, not on my terms. We are limited human beings. A limited human being can never reach the infinite. It's mathematically impossible. The only way we learned before, many times, is because Hashem told us, do this mitzvah. So because Hashem says, do this mitzvah, that causes a binding and a connection that when I do this mitzvah, because Hashem told me to do it, now I reach the infinite. So people can have great intentions of what needs to be done, but that doesn't mean it's going to work. The only way it works is if Torah says it works. Even take, for instance, now the situation in the world. Everybody wants to do things for Israel, for the hostages, for the soldiers. Everybody's interested in doing things. But we need to keep one thing in mind. If we want to do something that would be beneficial for Hashem to help them, you're talking about doing things Hashem wants us to do. not what I think we should be doing. So if people come up with their own ideas of what they should be doing, it's not necessarily going to work. To give you a very simple mashal for this, a doctor prescribes a medicine. Okay, I don't like this medicine. I'm going to take another medicine. I mean, only a fool will think like that. Who says the other medicine is going to work? The doctor says, the expert says, this medicine works for this illness. The other medicine works for a different illness. So I come along because I'm very smart. I don't like the taste of this medicine. So I'm going to take another medicine and I'm going to get healthy because I understand that this medicine is also good for it. When the reality is not only is it not good for it, it could be detrimental. It could kill you. So a fool will say, I don't care because this is what I think should be done. And if this is what I think should be done, it's good. You know, they tell a story. There was a kid with his mother in a bus station. They had to go by bus somewhere. And there were two buses in the bus station. One was a beautiful, fancy bus. And there was a simple, old schmata bus. And the mother says to the kid, we're going on this bus, the schmata bus. Because that's the bus going to their place. And the fancy bus was going in the opposite direction. So the kid says to the mother, Ma, but I don't want to go on the schmata bus. I want to go on the nice bus. The mother says, yeah, but it's going in the wrong direction. It might be a beautiful bus, but it's not going to take you where you need to go. It might be a beautiful idea. But when it comes to Torah mitzvahs, I'll ever sing over here, to bring godliness into the world, to elevate the world and get rid of evil, it has to be done in the way Hashem wants us to do it. Not only mitzvahs versus sins, but how mitzvahs should be done and when they should be done and if they, all the details. It's all very important to do it the way Hashem wants because that brings down Kedushin to the world. If I'm going to do it my way, it's not going to heal me. It's not going to bring Kedushin to the world. So not only are you not helping, then we make it worse. And he says like this. Okay, so that also this whole thing depends. To bring down godliness from nefesh achiyunis, which is by Ora Machi. How? By fulfilling all 248 positive mitzvahs, to remove evil, the shmiras called shasam mitzvahs leisasa, by keeping and observing all 365 negative commandments. And again, why? That the 365 veins should not get nourished from evil. Again, the only thing that feeds evil is when we do evil. If we don't do evil, it can't be nourished. And he says like this: Ki klolos Yisrael, the general amount of Jews, Hem shishim ribu neshamas, which are 600,000 neshamas. Hem klolos achayis is the general life of klolos ha'olam. The neshamas of 600,000 general. The 600,000 Jews that left Egypt are the general souls of all Jews. Because the world was created because of Torah and Jews, that's what the pasuk says. Bereshis bara Elokim. Rashi calls in the Medrash Beis Reshis, the two things called beginning, Torah and Jews. The world was created for Jews. That means God's lifeline in the world is for Jews. That means Jews, the 600,000 neshamas, are the lifeline for the world. Ki b'shvilam nivra. The chol prat mehem, and each one of the details of these 600,000, therefore, if the world was created for 600,000 Jews, okay, so every Jew has to deal with 1/600,000th of the world. That's his part that Hashem gave us. If Hashem created the world for the Jews are the lifeline of the world. That means each Jew of the 600,000 neshamas have to bring the life to that part of the world. Okay, he says the is dependent on my actions. La loise la Hashem, to elevate it to Hashem, baliyasa, by elevating your part of the world. Which, let's speak simple English. You go to the store, you buy food, you buy a loaf of bread, you buy a piece of chicken, you buy dairy, whatever. Just think for a second. That particular loaf of bread ended up in your basket, not in somebody else's basket. That apple that you bought, from the time of its conception, from the time the seed was planted in the ground and the tree grew and it was cultivated, and this apple ended up in this fruit store, and the day you happen to be shopping there, and you go into the store and pick that apple, Mr. Rabbi Dr. Baal Shem Tov said, it's hashgacha pratis. That means that apple is your apple from the beginning of creation that you have to eat with a bracha, eating it for the right purposes. That's your apple. It's not somebody else's apple. It's not somebody else's chicken. This piece of chicken that you put in your mouth is destined by Hashem that this particular piece of chicken or cup of milk or cup of juice or whatever it may be was destined by Hashem for Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, or whatever, not only at that particular moment. There's a pasuk in Tillim. The men say it's in Kuf Zayin. We say it before Mincha on Friday. In Kuf Zayin. Re'evim gam tzmeim. They're hungry, they're thirsty. Nafshem behem tesatov. Their soul is cloaked in them. So it says in Friedrich Rabbi brings down in Maimorim. What does the pasuk mean in a deeper sense? He says, Re'evim gam tzmeim. You're hungry and you're thirsty. Why? Why does Hashem make you hungry and thirsty? Nafshem bahem tesatov, because your soul is clothed in that food that you're going to eat. In other words, all of a sudden I get thirsty. Okay, I'm going to take a cup of water. Then you're going to make a bracha. If you're thirsty, you make a bracha on the water. Why did I get thirsty now? And why am I in this place that I'm going to be taking this cup of water, not somewhere else where I'll be taking a different cup of water? If you believe in hashgacha pratis, yeah, everything is destined. There isn't a blade of grass that doesn't move, a leaf that doesn't move without divine providence. Now, the Rebbe is saying you're elevating your part of the world. Where Hashem sticks us, that's the part of the world that we have to elevate. But it goes much more than that. It's not only the general part of the world that we exist in. Every particular thing. Why did I take this cup, and not another cup? Why did I take this drink and not another drink? There's 5 drinks on the table. Yeah? So officially, because I like soda, I don't like water. I like this, I like diet, I like this, whatever. It's all external. The real thing, that's your part of the world that you need to elevate, and therefore Hashem put it right in front of you at this particular moment. And Dr. Rebbe is saying this clearly. Every Jew, which is one of the 600 of the world, of the Neshamas, is it's connected to him 1/600th of the general world, which is dependent on his animal soul, to elevate it to Hashem, when you elevate it, when you do Torah mitzvahs with it. Which means, think about it, it's unbelievably remarkable. I got this piece of paper, you got another piece of paper. Why did I get this paper and you got that paper? Why? Why did I get this cup and you got another cup? If you think about it, according to Chassidus, because this cup, Hashem wants me to use it for the right purposes. Now, I could do the wrong thing with it, or I could do the right thing with it. If I do the right thing with it, I'm elevating the cup, which is klipas naiga, it's not kedusha. But if I'm using this cup and I'm making a bracha on the water in the cup, so I'm elevating the cup to kedusha, because now the cup was used for something good. I made a bracha on the water. So now that if God forbid I use it for something bad, to feed somebody, God forbid, poison or whatever, so then I'm strengthening evil. So every person has their particular place where he has to do the details of this. Hainu says, this that you're using from this world, what you're using from your animal soul. Like he says, achila, eating, drinking, dira, house, and all your furniture. Okay? And now the Rebbe says an interesting point. These 600,000 neshamas that we're talking about are general souls. And each one of these sources, meaning as follows. How many neshamas are there? So the Alter Rebbe says there's 600,000 general neshamas. Okay? Each one of those is composed of 600,000 parts. And each individual part is one neshama in the body. So if you want to know how many neshamas there are, 600,000 times 600,000. Add the zeros, figure it out, it's 360 billion, I think, something like that. That's how many neshamas there are. My neshama, your neshama, his, hers, was sent into this particular body, in this particular place, in this particular time in history, to do certain things in this particular time. And again, this is my cup, not yours. I can share it with you if you want. But this is my cup to elevate. You have a different cup to elevate. I have a house to elevate. You have a different house to elevate. Doesn't matter if you're renting, bought, it doesn't matter. It's your house. That house, you live in it because that's what you need to elevate now. This is what you eat because this is what you decide. I decided I want a dairy dinner tonight. Why did I decide? Because right now, my neshama needs to elevate dairy. And therefore, Hashem made it that I should want dairy because right now, Hashem needs this piece of dairy, whatever it is, to be elevated to Kedusha. Well, why did I decide to eat an apple? Because right now, this apple needs to be elevated to Kedusha. Again, I'm not talking about people that eat to live, then the Damiya and bread. We're talking when you eat properly like a Jew, for elevating the to be healthy and to live like a Jew and serve Hashem. So that's what happens. You're elevating that spark of the world. Once that elevates, I elevate my spark, you elevate your spark, everybody elevates their part of the world. That's the world ready for Mashiach, because then Mashiach, the essence of Hashem, can be revealed because there's a vessel for it. And evil will be dispelled because evil doesn't have any more power. And if evil doesn't have power, it's like darkness. It dies. There's nothing feeding it. Okay, once again, today's class was sponsored by Yodas Greenberg for Father's Yahrzeit. Rabbi Chil Issa Ben Tuvia, whose Yahrzeit is Hey Kiss of this coming Shabbos. Sham should have an aliyah and should be a good advocate for the mishpacha.
Amen.
Buddy, if you continue to hear only good news in Eretz Yisrael, Everybody have a great Shabbos Mitzvah. Monday night, 8 o'clock will be Parsha. And yeah.